Yesterday, we covered the massive amount of layoffs that hit Xbox, Bethesda, and Activision Blizzard King. It equaled out to over 1,900 layoffs, which was also 8% of Microsoft's gaming division. And that was a pretty startling stat to me, at least, because when you saw the momentum Xbox was gaining, finally becoming the business I think a lot of us wanted them to be, like quarterly, frequent exclusives, you get your Hi-Fi Rush, your Starfield, your Forza, like, okay, we're starting to see the momentum gaining here. You also saw the developer direct, the roadmap was created for 2024. It seemed like let the good times roll on, and then a big reality check came into place. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor. The following video is brought to you by BetterHelp. It's a brand new year, and that means it's time to set some goals. I've got 2 goals to share with you. Number 1, I am getting offline more often. I've already kind of started doing that in 2023, but really in 2024, it was like no social media apps. I'm offline when I'm done with my work, and that's it. It has been so healthy for me. Number 2, get back into therapy. I think it's so important to connect with yourself. Even if nothing horrible's happened in your life, just learn more about yourself. And I've been out of therapy for 6 years. I definitely need it, and that's why I'm doing it through BetterHelp. BetterHelp lets you have therapy sessions as a phone call, video chat, or even messaging. I prefer video chat because I like my therapy in person, if you will, and that makes it a lot easier and less intimidating for people who are on the fence when it comes to therapy. You can match to one of over 30,000 therapists in their network based on your needs, preferences, and location. They actually have a questionnaire that you're going to fill out about what challenges you're going through and what kind of therapist you'd like. So it feels like this perfectly tailor-made match for your situation, which is super important. Best of all is that you get a quick match and a quick appointment. And I personally have had trouble with that when I was looking for therapy options in this last year or so, which led to me just neglecting it and not doing it at all. Having a great option here that's also quick is fantastic. I cannot overstate that enough. Join over 4 million people who've used BetterHelp to start living a healthier, happier life. Click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/MrMattyPlays. Clicking that link helps support the channel and also gets you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp so you can connect with a therapist and see if it helps you. We had heard a lot of floating rumors over the last few weeks about Xbox, from a digital-only console to a new generation in 2026 to removing their entire physical media push to going digital-only with massive first-party games to taking Starfield off store shelves. There was a lot of changes that were being whispered into the wind surrounding Xbox, and I think with this massive amount of layoffs and seeing who was targeted in the layoffs and labeled as a, quote, redundancy, it spelled out a very scary situation for Xbox fans on where this company may be heading. As I've always said before, beware evil villain Xbox. But in the wake of all of that news, we learned about a canceled video game, Odyssey. This comes from Blizzard. It was announced in 2022. We only saw concept art for the game. It was leaked ahead of that announcement date, where it was from Jez Corden of Windows Central Gaming. It was there we learned that this is going to be a survival game of some kind, and otherwise, it was one of those quietly anticipated games in the Xbox and Blizzard community of what could this be? For Xbox fans, obviously a new exclusive. For Blizzard fans, the first new IP since Overwatch to come out of Blizzard. It was in development for 6 years, and now we know it's canceled. A lot of people have the question as to why. And Xbox has themselves in a really strange situation. I say that because when you look at a game last year that probably should have been canceled, the optics would have been awful one way or another. You let the game go out, and you saw what happened. You cancel that game, and now we're in that side of the situation here with Odyssey. Oh, that sounded cool. I wanted to play that. I wanted to check that out. And that's not said to defend Xbox. Make no mistake, not pleased about this. But it's just to say that when you look at what happened with the game I'm talking about is Redfall, and how that was a game that internally they wanted canceled, versus what's happening here with Activision Blizzard King, where not even 3 months after the acquisition, they are cutting people off, which Bethesda lasted much longer than that. So they're cutting people off. But on top of that, they're also canceling a project. And I feel like the events that happened around Redfall, it's a reaction to that there, but also Halo Infinite, and I'll explain why in a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into this Jason Schreier expose from Bloomberg, starting off at the top, where he says, the maker of hit games, including World of Warcraft and Diablo 4, has mostly focused on its large existing franchises, but in recent years, the company made a big investment in Odyssey, building up a team of more than 100 people to develop it. The game, set in a new universe, was in development for more than 6 years and outlasted many other Blizzard incubation projects. Now, the future of such efforts outside of existing franchises is uncertain. This is already a big key point here. Number one, we did not know how big the team was, and when the Matt Booty memo that we covered yesterday said, oh, we're going to shift people from that team to other projects that are new and in development, And then you see a tweet that says the whole survival team got laid off. So as you can see here, you can put a number to it, you can put a face to it. But at the end of this little statement here, the future of such efforts outside of existing franchises is uncertain. There's one thing that I've said consistently on Defining Duke, and especially here on this channel, whenever we talk about it, whenever it's topical, it's that the Activision Blizzard acquisition was about two things. One was solidifying the inevitable mobile footprint that Microsoft was about to stamp onto app stores the second they got the chance to do so, which, by the way, we just learned Apple has lowered its policies, and now you can get like Xbox Cloud Gaming onto the app store. So just watch how that one develops. Not only was it mobile gaming, but obviously the thing that everyone was battling throughout the FTC and in court about, Call of Duty. And even me, who is a very optimistic content creator, I'd say, compared to the average one out there, I did not hold much optimism in the idea that Xbox was going to reactivate the back compat program just to get Activision Blizzard games onto the program. I didn't think they were going to dig up Singularity from Raven Software and make a sequel to it. I really didn't get this feeling in my soul that they were going to do the things that me as a hardcore gamer wanted. I knew they were going to drill right into Call of Duty and right into Candy Crush as soon as humanly possible. And so when you see here that existing franchises are the main focus, think about the big money makers. Xbox is trying to, as we saw in the reasoning behind the layoffs yesterday, they're trying to have a sustainable growth. Call of Duty is going to be a big part of that. You can't mess with that. And a lot of people were like, oh, there's reports that they're going to take it off the annual schedule. I think it'll be, if it happens, years before we get that. So yeah, games like Odyssey are going to fall to the wayside. I don't know if this means they're going to fold into other, say, Call of Duty focused projects, whether they be spin-offs or whatever, but make no mistake, they're focusing on their money makers. See it for what it is. Continuing on, Odyssey started in 2017 as a pitch from Craig Amai, a Blizzard veteran who worked on World of Warcraft. It was conceived as a survival game like Minecraft and Rust, but with more polish and fewer bugs. Interesting pitch there. In subsequent years, the team working on the game expanded, and it was announced publicly in 2022 as the company began hiring for more staff. I find this talking point interesting. Like that, the goal should always be fewer bugs and more polish. I know survival games always had a bad rap for that type of stuff, but I think in games like Grounded, for example, that came out in a pretty good state as a survival game, like that was one of the major talking points was, hey, this isn't completely broken. So interesting pitch, because you got to remember the time period. 2017, there was not much going on in the survival genre that wasn't like kind of busted or janky. So this was probably going to be compelling to an audience if it released in a timely manner. 6 years later, maybe not as much. Despite the additional resources, the project struggled largely due to technical issues surrounding the engine or the suite of tools and technology that developers use to construct a game, according to people familiar with the process. Odyssey was originally prototyped on the popular Unreal Engine from Epic Games, but Blizzard executives decided to switch, in part because it wouldn't support their ambitions for vast maps supporting up to 100 players at once. When Microsoft acquisition was finalized, some Blizzard staff were hopeful that they may try to switch back to Unreal Engine rather than trying to finish the game on Synapse. In an interview at BlizzCon in November, Ibarra said that their new parent company would offer them the freedom to use technology of their choice without having to go through the board of directors as in the past. Despite the challenges, Odyssey appeared to be making progress. People who played early versions of the game enjoyed it and thought there was a lot of potential in the market for a survival game that hit Blizzard's bar for quality. Still, Odyssey was years away from completion. At one point, Blizzard was looking to expand the team to hundreds of people in hopes of targeting a 2026 release, but even that seemed overly optimistic to some developers. Instead, the project was canceled as the company concluded that Synapse was not ready for production. This is a really interesting revelation because this is where Xbox comes into effect. They have to look at this game, they have to evaluate it, that you have a 100-person team on it right now, and in order to get it across the finish line of a somewhat nearby timeline, possibly of 2026, you have to bone up in a way of 200, 300 developers extra on this game. That is a massive cost when you're looking for, quote, sustainable growth. And I don't say that to justify it, but just to create an understanding here of the reality of the situation. If you're Xbox, what would you rather throw hundreds of employees at? Would it be something like Odyssey? I'm not saying a game like Odyssey won't ever exist under Xbox's leadership, but what do you think Xbox would rather throw the money at? Right now, when you're looking for the biggest ROI, I would personally say it's not going to be the game that is years and years off, that's been in development since 2017. It's probably going to be something more nearby like the next Call of Duty. It's probably going to be something more nearby like World of Warcraft expansions. It's probably going to be something more nearby like another incubation project from Blizzard that hasn't had a troubled development, switching engines and all that stuff. Speaking of which, I think that might be something that scared Xbox off. Look at what happened with Halo Infinite. I feel like this is a really telling story here of something that they may have learned from that situation, and now we're seeing it actively be implemented. Although it's not really officially confirmed, LinkedIn profiles have suggested it. Slipstream was a pretty big problem, apparently, for Halo Infinite. It was said that there was a lot of factions within 343, and they were all deciding what direction Halo should go in, and eventually they came together on one idea, and it was kind of late, and Slipstream provided a lot of issues. Since then, they switched over reportedly to Unreal Engine, where the next Halo may be made over there. And this isn't the only company we've seen that happen with. For example, CD Projekt Red had the Red Engine build all the tools for Cyberpunk 2077, which you can say what you want about it at launch. I loved it then, but you look at it now, oh my, it's beautiful. And they've abandoned all of that apparently to go to Unreal Engine 5, because these are publicly available engines that have forums and dedicated support teams. So if you are using proprietary tech, and why companies are going towards this and agreeing to pay a fee to Epic is because, let's say you hit a bump in the road with your proprietary engine, Slipstream, like in Halo Infinite. You can't just pick up the phone and go like, hey, excuse me, is this the Slipstream team? We need help here. You made the engine yourself. There's no additional support. Whereas something like Unreal Engine, you can get that outside support. You can get that help when a roadblock is hit. It's why so many companies are going in that direction of Unreal Engine. You're going to see a lot more games just because of what's happening on Unity, but that's a whole other separate talking point. So I think when Xbox sees proprietary tech, long-term development, high investment for more years, I feel like it just spells out why they canceled it. Again, it doesn't make it okay, but it makes a lot more sense in that scope of experience, what it would have to be to get it across the finish line. And no doubt it bothers me still. I would love to see a company like Microsoft, like Xbox, who has a lot of money to really help a game like this get across the finish line. Especially when you look at Palworld, a recent massive success that is a survival game. And I know it's largely fueled by a lot of the Pokemon controversy, but that's not a knock against the mechanics of the game, which are really fun and have resonated with a ton of people, more than me, but definitely resonated with people enough where like this is on the rise, and you could have internally another big survival game from your brand new partner. That's the other crazy part to me. Look, I gotta say that while I understand what's happening here, I do take a look at how they approached Bethesda's acquisition and how there were very few layoffs when that company was absorbed, to our knowledge at least. And then you get this new partner, and there's a lot of optimism around staff about like freedom and getting rid of Bobby Kotick, and hopefully not as many layoffs, although we knew layoffs were obviously gonna come. And then boom, you get this, and like a game canceled on top of that. It's frustrating, it sucks, and no doubt eventually gameplay will leak for this, and it will only fuel the fire. Nonetheless, that's my read of the situation and what's happening here with Odyssey and Blizzard, and we'll see what happens next, because I feel like this is a potential when it rains, it pours. When you look at the rumors and you hear about like the third-party exclusive releases, like when it rains, it pours. It could get messy real quick here, so brace yourselves for the worst and enjoy the best of life itself, right? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, take great care of yourselves. Let me know what you're thinking about all this in the comments down below. Are you infuriated by this cancellation? Is this something you kind of shrug your shoulders at because, you know, ignorance is bliss? We don't know what it could have been. We don't know what it was, but now we'll never know. Let me know down below. Other than that, I'll catch you all in the next video. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.